Welcome back to New News with your host Olivia Jane. In this week's New News, top tips for millions of workers, mental health gets more support, Wales ruined by the coal giant, prisoners make a movie, and Buffalo Crossing opens in Kent. But first, in a shock move, Labour are actually doing something positive by hitting the refresh button on its climate efforts by appointing a new climate envoy, a role scrapped by the previous Tory government. Enter Rachel Kite, a seasoned climate expert who we hope will put us back on the map as a climate leader.
We are convinced that with the impact of extreme weather events, with the threat to agricultural systems, with the threat to energy systems and water scarcity, and the threat to cities, the cost of inaction is much higher than the costs of action to build low-carbon development and more resilient development.
She's got a tough job ahead, especially in getting the fossil fuel companies to cough up some of their trillions to help with the increasing amount of countries battling rising climate impacts. Great news for workers. Under a new law that took effect on Tuesday, businesses are now banned from withholding tips, ensuring that staff receives 100% of the gratuities left by customers. This change will benefit over 3 million workers in restaurants, cafes, pubs, and hairdressers across the UK, whether the tips are given by cash or by card. If a company fails to comply, employees can now take legal action through an employment tribunal. According to the new tips code of practice, all tips must be passed on to employees by the end of the following month. The Department for Business and Trade estimates that this will result in an extra £200 million being given to workers instead of being kept by employers. This marks a significant step towards ensuring that workers are at the heart of the economy and receive the tips that they rightfully earned. The UK recently became one of the first countries to offer 24-hour mental health support over the phone. The UK government has announced that domestic abuse specialists will be embedded in emergency 999 response teams from next year to assess cases involving rape, domestic and sexual abuse, ensuring proper support and protection for victims. This initiative is part of the government's plan to halve violence against women and girls within a decade, and was inspired by the tragic 2018 murders of Raneem Udair and her mother Kaola Salim, who died despite multiple calls to the police. Home Secretary Yvette Cooper emphasised the need for serious and urgent treatment of abuse cases. In entertainment, there has been a pleasant surprise for many moviegoers. The UK has hit a major milestone by reducing electricity generation from fossil fuels by 22% compared to last year, thanks to increased reliance on renewable energy sources. Unfortunately, the closure of the UK's last open-cast coal mine in Wales has laid bare the shocking failures of both the company running the mine and the Welsh Government's blatant disregard for the local community. Despite the Welsh Government's responsibility to oversee this land reclamation scheme, it has done nothing but sit back, allowing the fat cats to line their pockets while leaving behind a colossal mess. The mining giant has openly admitted it has insufficient funds to restore the massive site, equivalent to 400 football pitches and 656 feet deep, after extracting nearly 11.25 million tonnes of coal since 2008. The estimated cleanup costs being between 120 million and 175 million, but there's no sign of the company stepping up to pay for the extreme damage they've caused. To add insult to injury, the company has been operating without planning permission since September 2022. Yet, the Welsh Government has done nothing but hide behind the excuse that it cannot comment on individual cases. This spineless response from the authorities has left the local community facing the fallout, while the mining executives walk away with their profits, leaving an environmental disaster in their wake. The company claims to be in constructive dialogue with the council, but that's little comfort to the 115 workers losing their job or the local residents who were promised a green hillside restoration. Instead, what they're left with is an ugly scar on the landscape. This isn't just a failure, it's an outright betrayal of the community and yet another green light for corporate greed. Sing Sing, an extraordinary and uplifting film about prisoners at New York's Sing Sing prison, suggests that you're in for a gritty, harsh watching experience. But invest your time in this extraordinary offering from director Greg Quidar and realize how shallow many other films are. The cast is headed by Coleman Domingo, most recently seen in the 2023 update of The Color Purple, who gives a compelling performance as a wrongfully imprisoned man. But the heart of this amazing film are the actors who are actually former inmates at the prison. We see them as they create, rehearse, and put on a play as they work through their own issues, risking being vulnerable, making themselves into a family whilst they are shut off from relationships in the outside world. One of the surprises is the sense of stillness that runs through most of this film. Rather than the wall-to-wall violence and anger you might expect from its setting, that gives the few scenes of frustration and despair more punch. There is much to learn from this film, not least the importance and value of art and creativity for everyone, whoever and wherever they are. Whilst the popular view may be that allowing prisoners to be part of a theatre group is too much of an indulgence when they are there to be punished, it becomes clear in this film that it could be an effective tool in rehabilitation, as well as providing a safe outlet for expressing all the emotions locked up in men who are locked up. Finally, England's newest bridge project isn't for cars or trains, it's for bison. In a first-of-its-kind conservation effort, work has begun on 4 bison bridges in Kent to help these majestic creatures roam freely between forests near Canterbury. The bison, which vanished from Britain thousands of years ago thanks to overhunting, were reintroduced to the area in 2022 and even welcomed a newborn calf last November. Experts say that these eco-engineers do wonders for the environment, helping create new woodland habitats and sequestering carbon. Kent Wildlife Trust calls it a groundbreaking proof of concept.
Yeah, they've been trying all sorts of different foliage and vegetation. I've seen them settling into natural behaviours like dust bathing and bark stripping, and the herd, as seen, has been happily breeding and things like that. So lots of natural behaviour here.
It's safe to say the bison are ready to strut their stuff across their new pathways. Thank you so much for watching New News. Make sure to like, comment and subscribe, and I'll see you next week for more new news. Bye!